By volunteering, Ken Earl becomes an unsuspecting guinea pig in the war against the Soviets. On May 4th at Porton Down, he and 5 other Air Force men are led into a small room by 2 technicians.
We were told by the 2 men to roll up the left sleeve so the left arm was exposed. These 2 men then took 2 pieces of material and they taped them to our forearm. They then gave us each a respirator and that we were not, under any circumstances, to take off the respirator. And the door was sealed behind us. It was very, very poky, a small building. And I found out since it was a gas chamber, which puts the fear of death into you, of course. And this technician, with a vial and a pipette, went round each of us, and he dripped onto this piece of material 20 drops in 2 rows. And it was a colorless liquid. I didn't know what it was. I didn't question it.
The clear liquid is sarin nerve agent. It is quickly absorbed into the arm through the skin. The effects are immediate.
I became absolutely claustrophobic. I didn't know what sheer terror there is in being trapped and not being able to breathe properly. You feel you can't breathe. I was sweating profusely. And I felt so ill. And I now, even today, have nightmares about it. After half an hour, we were released, gasping and spluttering and sweating into the open air. Beautiful sunny May morning. Absolute bliss. What a wonderful thing to be alive.
The corresponding paperwork clearly states the purpose of the experiment is to determine the lethal dose of sarin. They quickly get their answer.
2 days later, another group of 6 had exactly the same thing done to them. But sitting in my seat was a young 20-year-old called Ronald Madison. And, quite frankly, he was dead within 45 minutes, the most hideous death anybody can ever have. Foaming at the mouth, an ambulance driver described it as like frog spawn coming out of his mouth. Terrible death.
Based on the dates in his passport and known previous visits to Porton Down, there is a good chance that Frank Olson witnesses this fatal experiment. According to investigative reporter Gordon Thomas, Olson voices his concerns to a man named William Sargent.
Dr. Sargent was the most eminent psychiatrist in Britain. He ran the Department of Psychological Medicine in St. Thomas's Hospital.
During the Cold War, Sargent's expertise is sought by both British and American intelligence.
He would decide whether one of our agents, one of MI5 or 6 agents, was okay, whether you're going to blow the whistle or not.
Frank Olson tells Sargent what he's seen at Porton Down.
He told him, I've seen things that shouldn't be going on.
Sargent apparently has doubts about Olson. Can the American still be trusted with top-secret research of the Cold War? By summer 1953, the Korean War is ending. Shocking news has flooded the airwaves. Captured American pilots confessed to dropping biological weapons on North Korea.
The germ bombs were loaded 15 minutes before our mission.
The U.S. vehemently denies the charge.
Has not and is not using germ warfare of any kind in Korea.
The communists must have brainwashed the pilots into false confessions. But how? The agency is determined to find out. (1953). The Cold War battle between the superpowers is on. But when captured American pilots in Korea confess to dropping biological weapons, the charge is immediately denied.
There was a real fear in the CIA that the communists had ways of doing things, of interrogating people, of making people act against their will, that could be breakthroughs.
To combat the new threat, the CIA launches its own intense quest to master the art of mind control.
They were looking for ways to manipulate and control human behavior. They looked at chemical substances. They looked at things like electroshock.
One drug in particular catches their attention: lysergic acid dithylamide, LSD.
The hope was you could use these drugs to soften up somebody for interrogation, or you could use them offensively for mind control programming and getting somebody set up for operations.
10 years before its recreational heyday, LSD becomes the focus of the CIA's quest for the perfect truth drug. There's just one technical hitch: how to find suitable subjects.
They found street people, they found prostitutes, they found prisoners, they found minorities to whom the CIA at the time did not put as much value on their lives as other people.
At the Federal Addiction Research Center in Lexington, Kentucky, Dr. Harris Isbell is contracted by the CIA to study the effects of prolonged exposure to LSD. His subjects are incarcerated heroin addicts, mostly African American.
The deal down there was unbelievably gauche. They had prisoner volunteers who came in, and they would be given LSD as part of the experimentation, and then as a reward given heroin.
In one experiment, prisoners are kept on increasing doses of LSD for 77 straight days. Even Dr. Isbell himself is amazed that such high quantities of narcotic can be tolerated for so long.
A lot of these things just violate any kind of common sense and basic medical ethics. That you would think it would be impossible that doctors would do experiments on drug addicts, giving them hallucinogens, and then as a reward for participation, they would get more drugs of addiction. But these things actually happen. They're absolutely documented.
These tests use incarcerated volunteers who know they are taking a drug. The CIA has a different mission in mind: to test the drugs covertly.
You might give it to a Russian diplomat at a cocktail party, and you wanted to see how he'd react. Could you recruit him after he'd been given LSD? So unwitting testing was the name of the game.
The CIA establishes safe houses in Manhattan and San Francisco. They enlist prostitutes to lure in possible suspects and slip them LSD. Local gangsters are used to simulate enemy agents with secrets to share. The agency listens in, hoping the lethal combination of the girl and drugs will get the man to talk. Narcotics agent Ira Feldman is responsible for finding those unwitting subjects.
We got prostitutes to come in and speak to these guys. And these prostitutes would put something, which I found out later on was LSD, into the drink and make them talk. And 10, 15 minutes later, they'd be spilling their guts, whether it be state secrets or narcotics or murder.
But at the height of the Cold War, interrogating domestic gangsters is just a practice run. The real challenge lies in field operations overseas, on the fringe of the Iron Curtain. In occupied Germany, the CIA